Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of AQS Quilting Stars. I am delighted to be coming to you from Quilt City, USA, and that's Paducah, Kentucky, if you might not know. It's my home, and I'm happy to be beaming this straight into your home where we can get some quilty inspiration and share with our friends. Today, I'm going to be talking with one of the sweetest and most wonderful people in the quilting world. She's a great teacher, a long armer, and a handy quilter national educator. It's Miss Jane Hauprich. How are you today, Jane?
Great. How are you, Liz?
Oh, I'm doing so well, and it is so good to be able to talk to you. I've missed seeing you. I usually see you at a lot of the shows because you're either teaching or you're in the handy quilter booth or you're
Right.
in one of the classrooms working on the machines. So I really have had some withdrawal this year.
Yes, I've had a lot of withdrawal this year. I'm really missing everybody.
I'm
So,
sure it's so hard, and we miss seeing people in person, and the tech is great. I'm delighted to be able to talk to you on here. It's almost like being there in person, but not quite. So at least we
right.
got this.
Yeah, not quite.
So Jane, will you show us around your space? Looks like you have a
Sure.
great studio space set up.
Well, I do have a nice studio space. Actually, this is my oldest son's old bedroom. And when he left, I took over. And so he knows that he can't come home now. And it's a small room, but and as it used to just have the long arm in it, and I'm going to turn you around. Let's see. Let me flip the camera. Okay, so if you come in the door, basically this is my space. So it used to just be the long arm, which is the handy quilter Amara with the pro stitcher, and it used to be just great. But when COVID hit, and I realized that I was going to have to start doing some virtual things to stay in touch with everybody. Then I added my a table with my domestic machine, and then I brought my Capri, which used to be my sit-down long arm, which used to be downstairs. I brought that upstairs. So it's a little tight space, but it works because all my machines are here. So when I teach, everything's right here and I can jump from one machine to another. So, yeah, so I'll just show you a little bit. I have not all my ribbons. I know I don't have a ton, but they're up there and they make me happy. It's just fun to look at and it's nice and colorful.
It's an impressive display, an impressive collection. They look
Yeah,
beautiful up there.
it's fun. I mean, it's just fun to have. I have I'll show you a couple quilts I have hanging up. This one was probably my latest whole cloth. This was based off of a design from Talene Jeffrey, who is South African, or so she's from South Africa, and she has these designs that she sells that you can just transfer onto fabric and you can quilt yourself. So, and I'll tell you a little boo boo I made about this. I made this because I thought I was going to enter it into shows. And once I got it made, I realized it wasn't the right size. It was too
Oh.
small for wall hangings and too large for miniatures. So it's just mine to look at and have pretty.
Well, I thought you
And
were going to say you couldn't because of COVID changing all the shows, but the size was wrong. But it's just stunning. It's so
thank you.
beautiful. And the color, is it silk?
It's on Radiance fabric,
Radiance,
which is
yeah.
which is a cotton silk blend. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. And I did that actually on the stationary long arm. So because some people think that because I do a lot of my quilting on a stand-up long arm that I can't necessarily do sit down anymore, but I wanted to make sure that I showed people I could still do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's something that's a lot, I don't, it's accessible to a lot of people who might have a smaller space or
It
might
is.
not really know how to use the long arm proper, but can transfer those domestic machine skills to the sit down long arm machine. So I'm glad that you showed that to people because that's a really good option for a lot of folks.
Oh yeah, it is. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And then I have this was a piece of hand dyed fabric and I just did some quilting on it because sometimes it's just fun to sit and quilt. And so that's one of the things I encourage people to do, is to just get some fabric and just sit and play. Um, Here is, I have this little hutch in here and I have filled it with quilts and some thread. I had tossed around the idea of moving it out because it makes my space a little cramped, but I kind of think it's fun looking, and I can put some pretty quilts on there, and it just, again, it brings me joy. So,
Yeah, absolutely. It gives a nice, like, homey feel to it. It's very nice, and it reminds me of the stuff that I had, in the house I grew up in. And right now, my house doesn't have all that nice stuff yet, but it looks really
yeah,
nice.
it's coming, right?
It'll be one day.
And then I have a couple of handy quilter things. We all did um, an ice dyed piece of fabric. So there were some of the pictures there that we all did our ice dyed fabrics. And then I have my handy quilter friends. I don't know if you can see them in the picture because I miss them all dearly. And then I was going to take you down and I'm going to show you, if I have to squeeze behind my machine. Like I said, it's a little tight in here. A couple other quilts that I have hanging up. Um, so this was one I did. It's just a miniature. It's small. I designed it and quilted it. Um, it's just fun. It's just fun to sit and play. And on this wall here was the older one I had done quite a few years ago. But again, it was just fun. It's just fun to do. That was intended to be an entire quilt, but after doing one quilt block, I realized I probably wasn't going to do anymore.
Oh, we have all been there.
Do you do you ever have quilts like that? I have bought so many kits and I go back to them and I think I don't want to do this anymore.
I know.
So
Let me tell you,
slowly but surely I've gotten rid of things because I just didn't want to do it anymore.
that is,
You know?
that's okay though. I think people need to know that if they start on something and they're like just super over it, just put a binding on it and hang it up. That's fine. And
That's
you
fine.
want to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, it's a slog. And why do that? Why do that to yourself?
It is. It is. And I have to show you this one. I'm sure you've seen something like this. So this quilt here with the little quilt block hanging down in the bottom, my friend made me that several years ago, and I just laugh every time I see it because I think some days I really feel like that.
He's so cute. A lot of us
I
feel
know.
like the little quilt block just hanging on for dear life right
I
now.
know. Well,
That's
yeah, right. And
adorable.
especially now, we're just sort of all hanging out, trying to do that. And like I said, I sat down yesterday. I hadn't stitched on my capri in a while, and I just did a little bit of stitching, um, just playing around, just some fun stuff. And that's what I hope. I mean, I love teaching free motion quilting, you know that. And so there's nothing more than brings me joy when student gets that, they get that aha moment and look in their face and they're so excited because they can do it now. So that's what I like. That's why one of the reasons I like to teach is because I like them to I want everybody to love it. And I know not everybody will, but I do want everybody to love it.
Right. That's absolutely right. And I think you do a good job of making people excited about it and making it accessible to people. And you had mentioned that you're teaching. Are you teaching virtually right now?
I am teaching right now. I have a beginning domestic machine quilting class that is going on, and I will be adding more. I will be adding, I have some ideas for some others that I'll be adding as I go. And they can always find me on my website, which is Stitch by Stitch Custom Quilting.com.
Okay. And, and,
And
and is that where they can find the classes and everything as well?
yes, yeah, as I develop classes, basically I'm going to use the classes I've been teaching for the past several years, but I'll be making them virtual and they'll join me through Zoom and we'll just do our classes. And it's worked out really well so far. The students that are in my beginner class have really seemed to enjoy it and they're doing really well. So they've all shown
Excellent.
me pictures of what they're doing and they're excited.
Well, that's great, and that's great to hear, and a good option for those of you out there who are looking for an educational opportunity even though we're not in person at shows right now, you can still do it through your computer. And even though Zoom seems scary, it's really not. You know, when we do these interviews, all I have to do is just send a link, and the person clicks it and they're in with me. And so I know that, Jane, you probably have something pretty similar and pretty easy setup where they maybe put in a meeting ID. It's not that scary. And I encourage all of you to try it out and to try something new. Maybe go to Shop AQS, get some fabric, and if you're an AQS member, you save 20% on that fabric, and then go and take a class and have fun with Jane, and you're gonna really enjoy what you make.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing is there's so many classes available right now, and you don't have to go anywhere. So
Right.
I even signed up for a Zentangle class this coming Sunday, and I'm super excited about it, you know, because I get to sit down in my own home and take the class.
Well, that's so funny that you mentioned Zentangle, because Bonnie Browning, AQS Executive Show Director, is really great at Zentangle. She wrote a book called Zentangle Art to Go, and that's also available on Shop AQS. And so, yeah, that's going to be something fun for you to do. Have you ever done it before? Or is it a brand new skill?
I think I tried it several years ago, maybe at like a guild meeting or something, but not a class. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And I did not know that Bonnie had a book, so I'm going to have to go out and get one for sure.
You should check it out. You should check it out. And
Yeah.
if you're not an AQS member, Jane, we're running a promo for people. It's a special membership drive because we normally do that at the shows, but we're not having shows right now. So what the special is it's $20 for a year, and then you also get a Shop AQS gift card for $20 and a special gift. So it's going to pay for itself. You can use that book to use that money to go get your book, or go get some fabric to work
Wow.
on one of Jane's classes, and just get to making some quilts.
That's awesome. That'd be a lot of, yeah, that's great.
Well, hey, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned two things. First, I want to say I've been encouraging people at home to try something new. Just quilt, like you say, Jane, just quilt, just do it.
Hmm.
It's a weird time where we're not necessarily sure what happens next, and we're not on the same deadlines that we're normally on. So you got a little bit of freedom to just kind of explore and use your imagination and be creative. So, number one, try something new. And number two, I think that you have a tip that you want to show us. Is that something that we can get from you?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And I'm not going to quilt. I'm going to talk about something real quick.
Perfect.
And I'm going to show you on the wall. So I have this little clothesline in my quilt room. And what I tend to do is I tend to hang the next quilt that I'm getting ready to quilt up there. And so that way it's kind of becoming ingrained in my mind, especially if it's getting custom quilted. It gets ingrained in my mind, and I'm seeing it at different times of the day and as I'm coming in and out. And so I'm thinking about it more. And I can be in the strangest places, and it'll come to me that, oh my gosh, I need to do that design in that one area. Something else I do too is I always take a picture of it, and I print it out on plain paper so I can doodle my ideas of thoughts over top of that picture, with like a mechanical pencil or something like that. And that way I have it for when I'm getting ready to start. And it's sort of a plan. So it takes the fear out of starting to free motion quilt. So it's, you know, you just have it available, and it gives you that freedom to just go ahead and start. Because how many times are people frozen because I have a closet full of quilt tops, but I don't know what to do with them. So they're just going to sit there.
That is
So this kind,
that's like a main problem. So
it
I'm really
is.
glad you mentioned that, and because yeah, when you've got that quilt done and you're just staring at it and you're like, what am I going to do? So
Right.
so you actually hang up the piece and just like keep it in your room so you see it when you're going in and out, and to help inspire you as you brainstorm.
Yes. Yeah. I leave it there. It usually hangs for at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks, um, just until I get an idea of what I want to do with it.
That's some
So,
really good advice. If you're like me, I always get my ideas like when I'm in the shower or when I'm falling
right.
asleep.
Yes. Yes. Me too.
Yeah, so that's great. If you've got something that you feel stumped on, just put it up, leave it, let it have some room. Don't let yourself feel so pressured. And then as you kind of walk by it and see it, it's just going to get stuck in your brain, and then maybe let your brain do the work instead of
Right.
feeling like you've got to figure it out right now.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. that works. Yep, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Um, the other thing I wanted to say is just a piece of advice for people. Um, don't I see this out on social media all the time, and somebody will say, "Oh, I wished I could quilt like so and so." And I would just say, don't compare yourself to anybody else. You know, everybody's on their own quilt journey. And just because what you do today doesn't mean it doesn't compare to somebody else, and doesn't mean that you're not going to improve. If you practice, you commit yourself to practicing a little bit every day, you know, you could get there, and that's a
That's
good
right.
thing. But, comparison steals your joy away. So don't, just we want to be joyful when we quilt. We don't want it to be, a chore. So I just want everybody, like I said, I want everybody to love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it should be joyful. And, if people are out there comparing yourself to others, let me tell you, I get on here and I talk to the best quilters and quilt makers in the world. And I see these beautiful quilts and I am like, well, once I made a strip quilt and I started a kit. so,
Yeah.
so don't feel bad.
Right.
We're all on our own personal quilting journeys, just like you said, Jane. And something I wanted to point out, which I'm glad you reminded me, you enter AQS contests and probably some other contests. And one thing I hear a lot from people is they'll go to a show and they'll look at all the quilts and they'll say, wow, these quilts are just gorgeous, but I could never put my quilt in the contest.
I
And
know.
you can't be doing that. You can't be saying that because you
Mm.
absolutely can. If everyone thought that, then we wouldn't have a show. There would be no quilt
Exactly.
contests. And, your work, we're always the hardest critics of our own work, aren't we? And so when you put it out there, other people are going to enjoy it, and no one's going to see the little, thing that you think that you messed up in your head. Most people aren't going to even notice that. So it
No.
just put it out there, just enter it. And when AQS has shows again in 2022, I encourage you to enter those shows.
Yeah.
And without spoiling it, I can tell you that I think they've been working on a rule mechanic that'll really encourage first time entrants to enter
Oh,
each show and maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable doing that. So please, 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 please enter your quilts into the quilt shows. We all want to see them. We all want to see what everyone's working on. And by the time 2022 rolls around, you'll have had plenty of time to make something brand new.
for real. Have you done many quilts?
No, I
No.
haven't. I'm such a novice quilt maker. I've made a couple of little things, but kind of like I've talked to a couple different people who said it's a little bit hard for me to get inspired right now to do things. I feel that
It
too.
is.
And so once I sit down and do it, I can do it. And we heard some advice just recently that said, from Katie Pasquini Massapust, who said, just do it for an hour. Set your timer, do a
Right.
thing for an hour. And usually by the time you're at like minute 45, you're like, oh, I keep doing this. I feel great. This is fun. But it's just getting started. That's the problem. And that's my problem right now, Jane, is just getting started.
Well, I'll tell you, so when we first shut down, and I made masks, and I just made hundreds of masks because that was all I could focus on. And then I got away from that, and some a local quilt shop was having a string quilt like sew along.
Okay.
So I thought, oh, I can do that. I don't have to think about it. So I did that. I ended up doing two quilts with that. And then that same quilt just had a log cabin quilt along. So I did that. It's like I almost need somebody to tell me what to do
That's right.
because I just don't have the motivation to do it.
I
So,
know.
but I've gotten some fun quilts out of it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that someone else mentioned, and I've been so pleased to talk with so many folks, is that before all of this, before 2020, about March hit, we were all working on deadlines. Like, I have to make this quilt because I got to enter it by this date in this contest, or I have to get this ready for a class. And now, when all that disappears, what are we left with? We're left with what is my motivation to do something that I love? Sometimes it's really hard to get motivated, but if you let just the joy of doing it motivate you, don't worry about making something that you think you should make. Make
right.
something that's got your favorite animal on it, or use your favorite quilt block. Just something that brings you joy, because you're right, it needs to bring you joy.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to be working on a supersized king size quilt right now. It's all cut out and ready to go, but I sidetracked that and started with the log cabin.
That's
So
okay. See, you
it's
are not
okay.
alone.
It'll get done.
That's absolutely right. It will get done. Well,
Yeah,
hey,
it
did
will.
you have anything else you wanted to show us before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I do have a few things that can help quilters along because, like, again, I'm all about free motion. I have a free motion practice panel, which I don't happen to have right here with me, but it has pre-printed designs on it that you can just go over, um, and those marks go away. So because they wash away, so
Cool.
it looks like you did the whole thing all by yourself, but it's a good way to practice. And I also have some books, and here, let me put them down. So I have a series of 5 books, and they are all free motion workbooks. So let's see, this is an intermediate one. Let me find something in here that we could go to. Okay, so each page has a clear plastic overlay. So you can use dry erase marker on, has arrows on it to show you where to go. And that way you can practice with your dry erase marker and you can get your muscle memory down. And then that way you can get those designs ingrained in you before you start applying them to your quilts. And there's a beginning, intermediate, advanced, a feather book, and a one called Element of Change, which is all about taking regular designs and changing them up by adding or taking something away from them.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for showing us that. And those can be adapted for home machine or long arm or
Absolutely.
sit down long arm, anything, right?
Yeah, it's for any machine. It's just to get that design going and get you comfortable with it. Yeah, like I said, the class I'm teaching right now is on mostly on domestic. There are some long armers that signed up for the class, so I'm kind of adapting the class to both of them. But everybody uses the same designs. So yeah,
Perfect. Yeah. So don't count yourself out if you don't have a long arm machine. Absolutely not. You can do
no,
this on your home machine, and you can start quilting without having to send a check to somebody to do it for you. You can do it in your own
absolutely,
home. And
yeah,
Jane,
absolutely.
will you tell us one more time where people can find that on your website? What's your website address?
Sure, it is Stitch by Stitch Custom Quilting.com. And I'm also on Facebook. If you look up Jane Hauprich, Stitch by Stitch Custom Quilting, I have a business page on there and you can follow me there too.
Well, perfect. It has been seriously just a delight to talk to
I
you
know.
and to look around. I miss everybody so much, and I miss seeing you. Like I said, I usually see you at most shows, so it's been hard for me. So this has been really nice to look at your quilts and your space and everything. Those of you at home, I would encourage you to visit her website and to get started on something that just brings you joy. And make
Absolutely.
sure that you like and share this video with your friends so that they can also be inspired too. Those buttons are down below the screen. You'll see the like and the share button. And be sure if you prefer maybe YouTube, you can do the same over there. Leave us a comment. We would love to interact with you. And until next time, this has been AQS Quilting Stars. Thank you, Jane. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.